Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this meeting of the Senate Committee on Education. I'm Senator Angie Taylor, and I have the honor of leading us in this meeting today. We will start with the roll call, Madam Secretary.
Senator Buck. Here. Senator Cruz Crawford. Here. Senator Doñate. Here. Senator Dondero Loop. Here. Senator Rogish. Here. Senator Titus. Here. Chair Taylor.
And I am here. Thank you very much. Before we jump into our meeting, I want to remind you of a few housekeeping items. I forgot to do this last meeting, so we have to get back on track. Okay, for those of you, you should already know this, please silence your electronic devices. If you are here to testify, please make sure you've signed in over at the table, or you can sign in even if you don't want to testify. That's fine too, but if you do testify and you have a business card, please make sure you share that with our wonderful staff over here to my left. When you come to make comment, testify, or what have you, please come forward, turn the microphone on, and speak loudly and clearly. Also, make sure you state your name. When you state your name the first time, please make sure you spell your last name. We want to make sure and get the record straight. And every time you speak, we will ask you to continue to repeat your name, and I will remind you if you forget along the way. Let's see. We have, at the end of the meeting, we have one public comment period, and we'll be open for public comment here in Carson City, in Las Vegas, as well as on the phone lines. That number is 888-475-4499, and the meeting ID is 864-973-00124. I'll repeat that number again towards the end of our meeting. So we welcome you here in Carson City, in Las Vegas, and those who may be tuning in on the phone lines. Just as a reminder, we are a policy committee, and so we will focus on the policy that we are reviewing and not the financials. We know there's a lot of overlap oftentimes, but we will leave the financial piece in the hands of our capable vice chair who chairs the finance committee. We'll make sure we do it that way. Today, we have a lot on the agenda. As you can see, we're getting close, must be close to deadline time. It is. Okay, we have two bills that we're going to hear, Senate Bill 81 and Senate Bill 396. And we also have several bills that we're going to work session. Senate Bills 115, 177, 237, 277, 305, 314, 318, 322, 331, 400, and 445. We'll get out of here by tomorrow. No, we really want to, thank you for your patience and understanding as we get through as many of these bills as possible between now and the end of the day on Friday. We will begin today with our work session documents. We'll begin with our work session. We'll do those first. Okay, all right. We'll do those first, and we will start at the top and work through them. And our wonderful policy analyst is here, and he will take us through it. Alberto, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chair. Alberto Quintero, Committee Policy Analyst. As nonpartisan staff, I cannot support or oppose any measure. Our first bill for work session, Senate Bill 115, makes various changes relating to bilingual education. This bill was heard on February 26. As introduced, Senate Bill 115 requires teachers to have an endorsement in bilingual education to teach pupils enrolled in a bilingual education program. Additionally, the bill requires the Board of the Trustees of a school district or governing body of a charter school to pay a $2,500 stipend to teachers who hold a bilingual education endorsement and teach bilingual education. Lastly, the Board of Trustees of each school district and governing body of each charter school must report the number of employees who received a stipend to certain entities. There is an amendment to this bill. Senator Cruz Crawford proposed the following, which is attached. 1, authorize rather than require a district or governing body of a charter school to provide a stipend to teachers who hold a bilingual education endorsement and teach bilingual education. And 2, if a district or governing body of a charter school provides a stipend to teachers, require the funding for stipends to come from school budgets already provided for that school year. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Contreras. Okay, we have heard the amendments, and before we move forward, I'll see if anyone has any questions. Okay, seeing none, I will open it up for a motion.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Move that we send forward Senate Bill 115. Is there a second to the motion? Oh, yeah, it's amend and do pass. Thank you. We have the amendment. No, it's okay. Was there a second? Seconded from, by Senator Yante. We will open it up for discussion. Yes, go ahead, Senator Titus.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Unfortunately, I'm going to be a no on this bill. I certainly support bilingual education. I think it's actually very important. I'm concerned about the financial structure and how you reimburse for it, and I will be a no on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Buck?
Thank you, Chair Taylor. I will also be a no. I think the autonomy with the building principal and with the district or charter is the best way to handle this, so I will be a no today.
Thank you so much, Senator. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor of amend and do pass, please indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Is there any opposition? Let the record show that we have 2 in opposition. It passes 5-2. No, 4-2? No, 5-2. Okay. And then I will assign that floor statement to Senator Cruz Crawford. We will go on to our Senate Bill 177. Mr. Contreras?
Thank you, Chair. Alberto Quintero, Committee Policy Analyst. Senate Bill 177 revises provisions relating to education. This bill was heard on February 19th. As introduced, Senate Bill 177 requires a school principal to conduct a meeting with certain district and school personnel rather than consult before 1, suspending a pupil who is homeless or in foster care, or 2, deeming a pupil who is at least 11 years old and homeless or in foster care a habitual disciplinary problem. Additionally, it requires a school principal to presume, rather than not presume, that homelessness or being in foster care is a factor in the pupil's behavior, and the court-appointed educational decision-maker of the pupil in foster care to be a part of that meeting. Senator Orenshaw proposed an amendment which does the following and is attached. 1, removes provisions concerning certain duties of the person responsible for determining whether homelessness or being in foster care was or was not a factor in a person's behavior. And 2, adds the following to sections 2 and 3. A, after the 5th day of a suspension, require the principal to convene a meeting with the pupil's educational decision maker and any person deemed necessary to review a pupil's information, including the child's academic plan, teacher observations, and any information from the educational decision maker to determine if related conduct was caused by or had a direct and substantial relationship to homelessness or being in foster care. B, if a principal, parent, or other relevant individuals determine the behavior was related to such status, require a principal to immediately provide behavioral academic supports to the pupil. C, authorize school personnel in certain circumstances to remove a pupil to an interim alternative educational setting for up to 45 days without a determination of whether the behavior is related to homelessness or the child being in foster care. And D, if a child is removed from school pursuant to the proposed amendment to C, and the behavior is determined to be related to homelessness or being in foster care, require the principal of the alternative educational setting to convene a meeting with the pupil's educational decision maker and any person deemed necessary to review a pupil's information, including the child's academic plan, teacher observations, and any information from the educational decision maker, and to the extent practicable, apply it to the alternative educational setting and or make necessary revisions to the child's academic plan. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Quintero. Okay, now we're considering Senate Bill 177. I will entertain the motion to amend and do pass. We have a motion from Senator Titus. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by a vice chair. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor of amend and do pass, please indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Is there any opposition? Okay, the motion carries, and I will assign that floor statement to Senator Orenshaw. Mr. Quintero?
Thank you, Chair. Senate Bill 237 revises provisions relating to education, last heard on March 10th. As introduced, Senate Bill 237 prohibits the Board of Regents from assessing tuition charges against students who are a surviving spouse or child of a first responder who was killed while acting in the normal course of duty. Senator Nguyen proposed the following amendments, which are attached. 1, prohibit the Board of Regents from assessing tuition charges and certain fees and expenses against students who are a surviving spouse or child of a first responder who was killed while on their way to or from acting in their normal course of duty, as provided with an agreed-upon employment contract. 2, prohibit the Regents from assessing tuition charges and certain fees and expenses against Gold Star spouses or dependents upon the families providing documentation of such status as a surviving spouse or dependent of a deceased service member And 3, expand the existing requirement for the regions to pay certain fees and expenses as outlined in Nevada Revised Statutes 396, 545, incurred by a surviving spouse, in addition to a dependent child, of certain first responders, rather than prohibiting the regions from assessing tuition charges as currently written subsection 2N of section 1 of the bill. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Quintero. I will entertain the motion to amend and do pass if that's the pleasure of the board at this time.
So amend and do pass, so moved.
Have a motion by our vice chair. Is there a second? Seconded from Senator Danyante. Is there discussion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor of amend and do pass, please indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Is there any opposition? The motion carries 7-0, and we will assign that floor statement to Senator Nguyen. Mr. Quintero?
Thank you, Chair. Senate Bill 2, Alberto Quintero, Committee Policy Analyst. Senate Bill 277 revises provisions relating to education, heard on March 12th. As introduced, Senate Bill 277 requires public schools, to the extent money is available, to employ school social worker full-time. The bill prohibits a public school, to the degree practicable, from entering into a contract with an independent contractor to provide services a school social worker is authorized to perform. Lastly, it requires the Commission on Professional Standards to adopt regulations authorizing a person employed by a public school in a position relating to school counseling and social work and who was enrolled in a program to obtain related licensure or endorsement to complete any required internship or practicum for the purpose of obtaining such licensure or endorsement while remaining employed. Senator Cruz Crawford proposed an amendment which does the following and is attached. 1, limits the requirement of public schools employing a social worker full-time to the extent money is available to public schools in a county whose population is 700,000 or more. And 2, requires regulations adopted by the Commission to authorize individuals employed as a school psychologist in a public school and enrolled in a program to obtain a license or endorsement as a school psychologist to complete any required practicum hours required of the program, in addition to the program's internship requirement while remaining employed. And Chair Taylor proposed an amendment which allows other school districts that do not meet the county population threshold to opt into requiring public schools to employ a social worker full-time to the extent money is available. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Quintero. I will entertain the motion to amend and do pass.
Amend and do pass?
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Is there a second? Seconded from Senator Donyante, and I see Senator Titus leaving in for discussion.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I absolutely, I'm a big proponent of social workers. I do agree that there's the need. My concern is this availability, as I've testified before. I'm about concerned about availability, and I want a clarification that even with the amendment, they would not be able to enter agreement with an independent contractor.
I'm sorry, Senator, is that a question?
That's a question. So I want to just clarify that component of this bill, which is the one part I'm objecting to, is still exist if that even with the amendment that the schools would not be able to hire an independent contractor.
I see. So you're
That's my concern.
okay. So that you're letting us know
Availability,
where-
the
yeah,
lack of social work.
the lack of.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you like to respond, Senator Cruz Crawford? Thank you, Senator Titus.
Yes, and we can talk to the legal too to see if this is correct, but the intention was to first give the right to hire at the school level, and that's a population cap, and once they can't, then they can enter into hiring through a contracting service. So right now, districts are contracting out the hiring process, but it gives the school district the right to hire at first, and to any extent available. If they cannot fill that position, then they can go through a district contracting service. Is that correct, the wording for legal? That's what the intention was.
Would I ask Mr. Newton, would you please weigh in? Did you hear that question? Would you like it repeated, sir?
Cameron Newton, Committee Counsel. I believe I follow Senator Titus's question, which just relates to whether that was amended out of the bill. Based on the work session document here, that provision is not removed from this bill. This bill, the only amendments are the ones here on the page. So.
And to that end, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Newton. Senator Titus?
Yeah, I was just going to say, to that end, again, I do support the social workers. I think they're critical, but I think that you should still be able to hire an independent contractor if you cannot find one. And so I'm going to be a no on this, and hopefully if there's further amendments or it changes a little bit, I can come to a yes.
Thank you, Senator. Let me ask this question, if I may. Does that statement on the first paragraph on the bill page, does that statement on the second line that says this bill also prohibits the public school to the degree practical? Oh, it says practicable, but practical from entering into a contract. Does that mitigate that? It says to the degree practicable. Practical. No, right, practicable. Practicable, Madam Teacher. Does that mitigate that concern because it says to the degree practicable?
Thanks for helping with that, Madam Chair. I still have concerns, but that might, and so again, as I said, I'll be a no now, but hopefully I can come to a yes, because I absolutely support the need for social workers.
Thank you, Senator Titus. Is there further discussion? Senator Buck?
Thank you, Chair Taylor. I will be a no, but I reserve my right to change on the floor. I just have some clarity questions about some of this.
Thank you, Senator Buck. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of amend and do pass, please indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Is there opposition? Nay. Okay, let the record show that it passes 5-2. And the floor statement will be assigned to Senator Cruz Crawford. Mr. Quintero?
Thank you, Chair. Alberto Quintero, Committee Policy Analyst. Senate Bill 305 revises provisions relating to interscholastic activities. Last heard on March 17th. As introduced, Senate Bill 305 requires the Nevada Interscholastic Activities Association, also known as referred to as the NIAA, to adopt regulations designating lacrosse as a sanctioned sport and certain provisions relating to sport eligibility, participation, competition, rules, and safety. The bill also requires the NIA to establish the Pipeline Infrastructure Fund to support certain infrastructure and services for pupils participating in a sanctioned sport. Lastly, Senate Bill 305 requires the Executive Director of the NIA to submit information related to the fund's deposits, expenditures, and progress to the Joint Interim Standing Committee on Education. Senator Duñate proposed the following amendments, which are attached. 1, amend Section 2 to require the NIA to adopt and post on its website regulations that provide a clear process for the designation of a sanctioned sport. The amendment adds certain content that must be included in the regulations, including any other guidelines necessary for participating in a sanctioned sport, and prioritizing the sanctioning process for currently established club sports at schools, including lacrosse, rather than limiting the regulations to lacrosse. 2, amend Section 5 to require the NIA to adopt the required regulations by October 1, 2025. And 3, remove Sections 3, 4, and 6 concerning the establishment of the Pipeline Infrastructure Fund, the requirement of the NIA to study the development of pupils as athletes and the pipeline to professional level athletes, and the required report to the legislature. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Quintero. If it's the pleasure of the committee, I'll entertain a motion to amend and do pass.
Amend and do pass, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Senator Cruz Crawford. We'll open it up for discussion. Senator Titus?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to Senator Donate and members who worked hard on this. This is this bill. Initially, I was not in support of this bill, but the amendment absolutely addressed my concerns. I think we do need changes, and I'm highly supportive of this bill. Thank you. As amended.
Thank you, Senator Titus. Is there further discussion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor of amend and do pass, please indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Is there opposition? The motion carries 7-0, and we will assign that floor statement to Senator Duñate. Mr. Quintero, please continue.
Thank you, Chair. Alberto Quintero, Committee Policy Analyst. Senate Bill 314 revises provisions relating to mental health education in schools. This bill was heard on March 24. As introduced, Senate Bill 314 requires the council to establish academic standards for public schools to develop standards for mental health education. The standards must correspond with the social and emotional learning standards developed by Nevada's Department of Education and include information concerning mental health and its promotion, provide culturally and age-appropriate mental health resources to pupils, and require the use of evidence-based mental health curriculum. The bill also requires the Commission on Professional Standards to adopt regulations relating to mental health education and training requirements for licensed teachers. It requires certain licensed teachers to complete a course in mental health education before applying for licensure renewal on or after July 1, 2027. Lastly, each school district and governing body of each charter school must provide, or through an agreement with a certain entity, professional development training that satisfies the mental health education requirement. Senator Lang proposed the following amendments, which are attached. 1, remove Section 2 concerning mental health education course requirements for licensure and instead require public school teachers to complete an approved mental health education course. Additionally, NDE must adopt regulations prescribing the course content. The course may be provided by a college or university or a school district or regional professional development program at no cost to the employee. Returning teachers must complete the course by July 1, 2027, and new teachers employed starting in school year 26-27 must complete the course within the first year of employment. Additionally, public schools must keep employee records of course completion and allow NDE to audit course completion records. Lastly, number 2, remove language in subsection 1A3 of section 3 regarding the requirement of an applicant for a teaching license to complete a mental health education course prior to the issuance of the license. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Quintero. If it is the pleasure of the committee, I'll entertain the motion to amend and do pass.
Amend and do pass?
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Is there a second? Seconded from Senator Danyante. Discussion? Senator Titus.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I absolutely appreciate the need for mental health education in the state, and with our teachers, but across the spectrum of all folks involved with our youth especially. I do absolutely appreciate the Section 2 and the amendment that the sponsor has offered, because that was one of my concerns, that I felt that this bill might actually interfere with new teachers coming to our state. Having said that, I am still going to be a no with the hopes that I can come to a yes after we look a little bit further at this amendment to making sure that we'll have good access for our teachers. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Titus. Senator Buck?
Thank you, Chair Taylor. Again, another barrier to hiring teachers and getting them in classrooms in our state. I can see where if we can limit the professional development, because definitely there is a need for some of this, but the 30 hours initially, and then with the amendment, just having another class that teachers have to take in order to become licensed, just becomes another barrier to getting teachers in classrooms.
Thank you, Senator Buck. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of amend and do pass, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Nay. Let the record show the amend and do pass. It passes 5-2, and the floor statement will be assigned to Senator Lang. Mr. Quintero?
Thank you, Chair. Alberto Quintero, Committee Policy Analyst. Senate Bill 318 revises provisions relating to charter schools. This bill was heard on March 19. As introduced, Senate Bill 318 prohibits a charter school from contracting with an educational management organization, also known as the EMO, to provide services relating to the operation and management of the charter school. A charter school may renew an existing contract with an EMO once in certain circumstances. Additionally, it requires a charter school to provide its sponsor with written notice of any project relating to the new construction, repair, or reconstruction of certain buildings, facilities, or property with an estimated cost exceeding $100,000. A charter school also must provide its sponsor with project competitive bidding, compliance documentation, and public works prevailing wage records. The bill provides for certain administrative penalties for failure by the sponsor to ensure compliance with these provisions. Senator Daly proposed the following amendments, which are attached. 1, amend subsection 1G of section 11 to eliminate the language in that paragraph that only prohibited a contract between a charter school or a proposed charter school and a contractor from requiring the charter school or proposed charter school to request or borrow money from the state to pay the contractor if the contractor will provide financial management to the school. 2, amend subsection 1L of section 11 to remove the exemption on the prohibition of incentive fees in a contract between a charter school or a proposed charter school and a contractor based on the academic improvement of pupils in the school. 3, amend subsection 1O of section 11 to prohibit in a contract between a charter school or a proposed charter school and a contractor from requiring the governing body of a charter school to pay any costs associated with ensuring that contractor, rather than services, is in compliance with state and federal law. Finally, number 4, amend the definition of a contractor in subsection 2A of section 11 to mean a corporation, business, organization, or other entity that directly employs and provides personnel to a charter school entity for licensed professional, healthcare, or other operational services and programs. The term does not include for-profit entities that provide centralized support or management services to the school. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Quintero. If it is the pleasure of the committee, I'll entertain the motion to amend and do pass.
Amend and do pass.
A motion from the vice chair. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded from Senator Cruz Crawford. Discussion. Senator Titus?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I feel that this bill was brought forward as a direct attack on charter schools. They're our highest performing public schools that we have in our state. And in reality, the problems that this bill brought on are certainly not reality. I think that the NRS and the previous regulations we have put out, the schools have addressed, especially when it comes to education of our special needs children. None of these things, as it was testified, supposedly were happening in the state are indeed happening. As a matter of fact, this body has put in regulations in the past that give strong guidelines. And I think this bill is absolutely wrong, and I will be a no on it.
Thank you, Senator Titus. Further discussion? Senator Buck, I see you leaning in.
Thank you, Chair Taylor. Well, since charter schools get zero facility funding to fund their facilities, they have to take it out of their per pupil dollars in order to fund their facilities. It's hard putting extra regulations on them. And then also, I'd like for this committee to actually look into how much districts charge as far as if they were an EMO. It's significantly more that they take off the top of all the schools in which they serve than what an EMO does to deliver, quite frankly, the same services. So I will be a no today.
Thank you, Senator Buck. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of amend and do pass, please indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Opposition? Nay. Let the record show, was that 5-2? 3? Okay. Let the record show it was the vote was 4-3 to amend and do pass. And I'll assign that floor statement to Senator Daly. Mr. Quintero?
Thank you, Chair. Alberto Quintero, Committee Policy Analyst. Senate Bill 322 revises provisions relating to the Board of Regents of the University of Nevada. This bill was last heard on March 19. As introduced, Senate Bill 322 requires each member of the Board of Regents to complete at least 12 hours of professional development training during the first year of their first term and 6 hours of professional development training each year after. The required training must cover certain topics related to open meeting law, public records laws, ethics, bias, discrimination, financial management, employee training and management, the system of public higher education, the duties and responsibilities of the board and other staff. Board members may receive compensation for each 3 hours of training, which must be equal to the amount each member receives for attending a board meeting. A board member may not receive compensation for more than 18 hours of training each year. Additionally, the secretary of the board must facilitate and assist each member in completing the required training, and each board member must provide written certification of the completed training to the secretary. If a member fails to complete the required training, the secretary must publish a notice on the board's website and notify other board members of noncompliance. Lastly, the bill decreases the annual amount a board member may draw from an account established to pay for hosting expenditures. Ken Urban, representing Nevada Faculty Alliance and the Nevada System of Higher Education, proposed the following amendments, which are attached. 1, removes references in subsections 1 and 2 of Section 1 related to the number of hours of professional development a regent must complete and the year in which the training must be completed, and instead requires a regent to complete at least 6 hours of training in their first and third term. Subsection 2 of Section 1 requires a regent to complete instruction on open meeting law and eliminating bias and discrimination in higher education. 2, allow other than require the professional development training to cover certain topics. 3, amend references in subsection 1 of Section 1 related to specific instruction topics that may be covered, including A, removing the government employee management relations, B, adding strategies for improvement on campus safety, C, removing the duties and responsibilities of the staff of each institution's president within NSHE, D, removing matters relating to the budgets and funding policies of NSHE and its institutions, E, removing best practices relating to searching for, hiring, evaluating, compensation, and retaining certain high-ranking personnel within NSHE, and instead adding best practices relating to searches for executive officers in higher education, and adding other topics of instruction relating to the duties of the board rather than the administration of higher education, including the advancement and achievement of students, measuring and improving student outcomes, and the advancement, retention, and professional development of staff. 4, requires a regent to provide evidence rather than written certification to the secretary of the board that professional development training was completed. 5, provides that a regent is entitled to receive compensation for 3 hours of training completed outside of a meeting of the Board of Regents rather than training completed in the state, and clarifies that a member cannot receive such compensation for more than 18 hours of training each calendar year. 6, eliminates Section 2 regarding the salary and per diem entitlements and travel allowance to each Board of Regent if the member attended a board meeting, and the establishment of an account for each member of the Board of Regents to pay for hosting expenses. And lastly, 7, changes the effective date of the bill from July 1, 2025 to January 1, 2026. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Quintero. If it is the pleasure of the committee, I'll entertain the motion to amend and do pass.
So moved.
Motion from the vice chair, seconded from Senator Titus. Any further discussion? Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor of amend and do pass, please indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Is there opposition? Okay, the motion carries 7-0, and I will assign that floor statement to myself. Mr. Quintero?
Laura Quintero, Community Policy Analyst. Senate Bill 331 revises provisions relating to education. This bill was heard on March 31st. Senate Bill 331 requires the Director of the Office for a Safe and Respectful Learning Environment of Nevada's Department of Education to establish procedures by which a person may file a complaint in addition to the reports it receives relating to discrimination based on certain characteristics. The Director also must post the procedures for filing a complaint on the Department's website. Additionally, the bill requires the State Board of Education to include in its parental involvement and family engagement policy the promotion of the involvement of parents and families in school programs to support pupils, including programs that support certain pupil groups. Lastly, it requires the superintendent of each school district and the administrative heads of charter schools and university schools profoundly gifted pupils to include in their progressive discipline plans a system to rate offenses by pupils on a progressive scale of seriousness. The system must include threshold levels of accumulated offenses by pupils that, when met, require school administrators and other applicable school personnel to take intervening actions to prevent the act of additional offenses. There were no amendments proposed for this measure. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Quintero. If it's the pleasure of the committee, I'll entertain the motion to pass. No amendments.
So moved.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Seconded from Senator Cruz Crawford. Open for discussion? No, Senator Titus?
I like this.
Okay.
Parental
Let's hurry up and vote. Okay, seeing no further discussion, all those in favor, please indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Is there opposition? The motion carries 7-0, and I will assign that floor statement to Senator Dina Neal, who is back in the building as of today. Mr. Quintero?
Thank you, Chair. Alberto Quintero, Community Policy Analyst. Senate Bill 400 revises provisions relating to education. This bill was heard on March 31st. As introduced, Senate Bill 400 requires that if a pupil transfers from a school, either within or outside the state, the pupil must continue to receive the services outlined in their Individualized Education Program, also referred to as an IEP, from the previous school until another IEP is developed, adopted, and implemented. Additionally, it requires the Commission on Professional Standards to adopt regulations for an endorsement to teach music at an elementary, middle, junior high, or secondary school. It also prohibits the Commission from requiring a teacher to obtain an endorsement to teach music at an elementary school if the school district has fewer than 200,000 enrolled pupils. Senator Dondero Loop proposed the following amendments. 1, require the Commission to also adopt regulations for an endorsement to teach art at an elementary, middle, junior high, or secondary school. 2, revise the effective date of the music and art language in the bill to July 1, 2026. 3, prohibit the Commission from requiring a teacher to obtain an endorsement to teach art or music at an elementary school if the school has fewer than 500 pupils enrolled. And 4, require the recognition of an advancement on a salary schedule for teachers or education support professionals when a new degree is conferred. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Quintero. If it's the pleasure of the committee, I'll entertain a motion to amend and do pass.
I'd like to make the motion
Okay.
to amend and do pass.
Thank you, Senator
moved.
Cruz Crawford. Is there a second? Second. We're gonna take Senator Titus on that one. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Is there opposition? The motion carries. Let the record show is 7-0, and we will assign that floor statement to Vice Chair Dondero Loop. Last bill, Mr. Quintero.
Thank you, Chair. Alberto Quintero, Community Policy Analyst. Senate Bill 445 revises provisions relating to the privacy of data concerning pupils. This bill was heard on March 31st. As introduced, Senate Bill 445 requires Nevada's Department of Education to transfer any pupil data to the Division of State Library, Archives, and Public Records within the Department of Administration no later than 1 year after a pupil graduates or ceases enrollment in a Nevada public school. Prior to this data transfer, NDE must redact all personally identifiable information. The bill also requires the division to destroy the transferred pupil data 10 years after its receipt. Nevada's Department of Education proposed the following amendment, which is attached. 1, instead of requiring the department to transfer redacted pupil data to the division after a pupil graduates from high school, requiring NDE to anonymize and transfer the pupil data to its archive. The NDE will destroy all pupil data in its data system 10 years after a pupil turns 22 years old. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Quintero. If it is the pleasure of the committee, I'll entertain the motion to amend and do pass.
So moved, Madam Chair.
There's a motion. Is there a second? Second from Senator Donyante. Any discussion?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I support the bill and certainly the data. I just need some clarification regarding the amendment. It says that the 10 years after the student turns 22, they're going to destroy the data, or do they keep the data for 10 years? So it says the department shall maintain this data for 10 years. And then what are they doing with it? But 10 years after the student turns 22 years of age, does some of this data then go in when they're 12 or just 8? Or it's unclear to me.
Thank you, Senator Titus. I'll respond after the Vice Chair. Vice Chair?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think one of the things that I would put in this is the 10 years after they graduate, there's many times the reasons they need data, whether it's for a job, to apply to college, getting a job, whatever it is. Somehow they need to document some of these things, and they go back to the department to get these things, and they don't always know where to go, so they may go to the Department of Education, and I think that's why 10 years after a student turns 22 years of age, I think we heard in testimony even that someone had to go back. I can tell you when I applied to be a substitute at the Clark County School District, where I taught for 30 years, I was still asked to provide my high school transcripts, of which...
Thank you for that, but that's, okay.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Maybe I can lend some clarity as the bill sponsor, and I appreciate NDE working with us on this. The way the bill and the amendment together reads is that after 1 year, right? After 1 year, then after a student graduates from high school, or if they cease to be enrolled in our state, then the data will be transferred, right, to, it's already transferred, it's held on the data system. Okay, and then but when it's transferred, all identifying information will be removed. They will keep the data without identification will be kept for 10 years, right, after the student turns 22.
And I appreciate both the chair and the vice chair explanation. Again, just the way the language is written, because I agree with you on that. I mean, you should keep it for 10 years and I agree with that. It just seems like it's conflicting language. So you maintain the data for 10 years, but then it says 10 years after the student turns 22 years of age, you're going to destroy that. So it may be that you're actually keeping the data longer. It just seems semantically like if the data starts out when you get the data when the child's 15, and then you destroy it when he's 25, that's 10 years later, versus when you destroy it at the age of 22 10 years later. So I get the importance of keeping the data because we all apply for jobs and you need your high school credit. It just seems like it's unclear to me how that reads is all, but I get the importance of keeping the data. So
Thank you, Senator Titus.
I'm going to support the bill. It just seems like it's unclear.
I hate to put you on the spot, Mr. Newton. Can you shine some light? I think that there's a period after 10 years. It will be kept for 10 years, but it won't go any further than 10 years after 22 is the intention. Mr. Newton, legal counsel, please.
Cameron Newton, committee counsel. So the way that this is written does say that the department shall maintain this data for 10 years. 10 years after a student turns 22 years of age, the department shall destroy all data concerning the student in NDE's data system. The way the bill was originally drafted, does contemplate that this transfer of data occurs either when a pupil graduates from high school or if they cease enrollment in the public school in the state, which could potentially be if they are, say, 8 years old or something like that. So if this requirement, the sentence in here that says the department shall maintain this data for 10 years doesn't seem to comport with what the stated intent of the amendment is, unless you interpret that as saying that the department shall maintain the data for 10 years after the student or the pupil turns 22 years of age, at which point then it gets deleted. So if you read it in concert with that to say that this requirement is that they maintain it for the 10 years after the pupil turns 22 and then it gets deleted, I believe that would work.
Thank you, Mr. Newton. And what this, as a bill sponsor, that's some clarification we want to make sure we make moving forward.
Thank you all for all the input, because I accept the bill, but I think it's a good bill, but it just needed some clarification. Thank you.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of amend and do pass, please indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Is there opposition? The motion carries 7-0, and as the bill sponsor, I will assign that floor statement to myself. Okay, thank you very much, committee members. We worked through a lot of bills and really appreciate it. Thank you so much, and we'll continue that work at our next meeting. But now we have two bill hearings that we're here on today. The first bill hearing is Senate Bill 81, which revises various provisions governing education. And we will ask the Nevada Department of Education, NDOT, no, not NDOT, it's not in, that's wrong department, NDE to come forward. And please go. Thank you for being here, and please begin when you are ready. And state your name for the record. You know the routine.
Good afternoon, Chair Taylor and members of the Senate Committee on Education. My name is Megan Peterson, Deputy Superintendent for the Department of Education within the Student Investment Division. I am joined with Director Jeff Brisky today to introduce Senate Bill 81 to you. This bill proposes a series of important revisions to various aspects of Nevada's education system and has two primary objectives. First, it aims to improve working conditions in our schools and support programs that enhance the recruitment and retention of teachers. The second focus is to address various administrative inefficiencies that reduce the productivity of our educational infrastructure. As we move forward, SB 81 presents an opportunity to refine our education system, enhance support for school staff, and streamline administrative processes. And at this point, I will turn it over to Jeff Brisky.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Taylor, Vice Chair Dundera Loop, members of the committee. My name is Jeff Brisky, Jeffbrisky. I am the Educator Licensure Director at the Department of Education. As you know, NRS 385A650, enacted in 2003 and amended in 2021, requires school principals in consultation with school employees to prepare a plan to improve the achievement of pupils enrolled in the school. This plan must include strategies for evaluating and improving school climate. Senate Bill 81 builds on this existing statute by requiring the department to create and conduct surveys assessing educators' school climate, working conditions, as well as reasons for staff turnover and factors that could help retain them. The Department of Education has partnered with American Institute of Research, AIR, and West Ed since 2015 to develop surveys such as the Nevada Teacher Exit Transfer Survey, the Staff Working Conditions Survey, and the Staff School Climate Survey. These surveys aim to understand statewide trends and challenges related to school site working conditions, climate, and educator retention. The goal is to improve policies and practices that support Nevada's public schools with the ultimate aim of enhancing educator recruitment, satisfaction, and retention, as well as student achievement. The Teacher Exit Transfer Survey was launched in spring of 2024, and the Staff Working Conditions Survey was launched in the fall of 2024. Both of these are critical tools in gathering data to guide policy and funding decisions. This data will help the department and school districts better understand and address the issues affecting our educators. Section 1 of Senate Bill 81 requires the department to include survey data in the statewide system of accountability, recognizing schools where at least 85% of the staff participate in the survey. The survey data informs school improvement plans and will not be used punitively, ensuring that the feedback is utilized to make meaningful, positive changes in the school environment. This proactive approach is vital to enhancing both teacher retention and student success. Senate Bill 81 also addresses the pathway to licensure for educators. Section 18 removes the alternative route to licensure pathway for school and program administrators because these educators already hold a teaching or program license. It does introduce a new pathway to add an administrator endorsement to a teaching or program license, making this process more streamlined and efficient. That pathway will be the interim route to licensure, much like we already have in regulation allowing general education teachers to add a special education endorsement. Additionally, sections 20 through 31 empowers the Department of Education to administer the educator scholarships, removing the State Board of Education from this process to avoid any delays in dispersing the funds. This change is especially critical in ensuring that students in educator preparation programs receive timely financial support, preventing students from separating or delaying completion of their program due to the delayed funding. Section 21 extends eligibility of the Teach Nevada Scholarship to Nevada residents who graduated high school outside of Nevada but wish to teach in our state. This amendment recognizes that many long-time Nevada residents who have been working in our public schools wish to become teachers and deserve the support in pursuing their certification. Further, sections 26 and 29 allow universities and other providers to award the Nevada Teacher Advancement Scholarship to educators pursuing advanced degrees or certificates in high-need subject areas such as STEM, special education, or English as a second language. The department has submitted an amendment to allow for monies in the incentivizing pathways to teaching and Nevada teacher advancement programs to remain in the account and not revert back to the general fund. For the department to establish a block grant for the educator preparation programs with allowable uses of the Teach Nevada Scholarship, incentivizing pathways to teaching, and Nevada teacher advancement programs, removing language regarding the 25% tuition holdback for these programs, and allowing employers to make employment decisions regardless of the pathway candidates earn their administrative endorsement without the state being a barrier. And I will now transfer it back to Deputy Peterson. Thank you.
Megan Peterson for the record. In addition to addressing workforce issues, Senate Bill 81 also focuses on improving administrative processes to increase the efficiency of not only the department, but as well as school districts. With the implementation of the pupil-centered funding plan, several changes are needed to streamline operations, reduce duplicative reporting requirements, and improve overall effectiveness. In response to feedback from local education agencies, as well as the Commission on School Funding, the department conducted a comprehensive review of reporting requirements. Senate Bill 81 includes provisions to ease reporting burden on local education agencies, such as shifting the due date for the annual expenditure report, known as the 387-303 report, from November 1st to the first week in January. This change allows local education agencies more time to close the prior fiscal year, reconcile and audit financials, and submit the report with the highest accuracy. Since fiscal year 23, the department has conducted rigorous analysis of K-3 class size reduction reporting and found that 76% of all variance requests remain stable throughout the year, meaning that 76% of schools that report a ratio exceeding the target remained the same for the entire school year. Responsive to the burden of class size reduction reporting and in pursuit of high-quality data, Sections 9, 10, 11, and 12 proposed moving class size reduction reporting from quarterly to twice a year, and removes a February 11th legislative report as it is duplicative of information that is otherwise published in other reports. It also sets a requirement for annual plans to be submitted to the department by October 1st and removes references to categorical funding specific to class size reduction that has now been rolled into the statewide base per pupil funding amount within the pupil-centered funding plan. Districts are also required to publish a quarterly report of expenditures incurred in the prior quarter. Section 7 removes the requirement of this, that is to be published in the newspaper, and instead posts it on the school district's website. Section 8 contemplates the computation of enrollment and attendance for students in detention facilities and requires that districts provide additional reports upon request to the superintendent regarding this enrollment. However, under current reporting procedures through Infinite Campus, no such supplementary reports are necessary, and the department seeks to strike the requirement for ad hoc reports. Section 5 seeks to update the references of Zoom and Victory to services in statute that reflect the integrated funding approach in the pupil-centered funding plan, which includes services for at-risk pupils and English learners. These program provisions still exist and the services are still to be provided. It is just alignment of the terminology with the change in the funding. We would like to note that conceptual amendments have been submitted by the department to include the removal of sections 3, 33, and 34 regarding the transfer of revenues to the state education fund, and adding language clarifying requirements for charter schools, university schools for profoundly gifted students to submit average daily enrollment reports, and clarifying language regarding requests from the State Board of Education. In conclusion, Senate Bill 81 represents a critical step toward improving the overall efficiency of our educational system while addressing the workforce challenges that impact both educator retention and student success. The combination of improving school climate, streamlining administrative processes, and providing better support for teacher recruitment and retention will support a stronger, more resilient educational system for Nevada students. And with that, we are happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so much, Ms. Peterson and Mr. Frisky. Let's see if we have any questions from the committee members. Seeing none, I'm going to ask just a little bit because I had some conversation earlier. Will you talk through a little bit about removing the titles, the categorical funding, right, from Zoom schools to Victory schools, and just talk through that a little bit? I know it's in the, but let's get that on the record.
Thank you, Megan Peterson, for the record. Yes, when the pupil-centered funding plan was introduced in 2019, many of the provisions that are associated with those programs were codified into statute. So all the services for the after-school services, pre-K, those types of programs were codified, and those provisions are still expected to remain. However, the terminology within the pupil-centered funding plan focused on EL students and those who are at risk. And so previously, these were programs that were categoricals known as Zoom and Victory. And since those categoricals have rolled into the pupil-centered funding plan, this is alignment of the practices and procedures with the funding sources.
Thank you, Ms. Peterson. Let me follow up just a little bit. So if in today's world, right, if this were the path, and I understand it's just a language change, right, would it still be possible if schools or districts wanted to identify the schools with, say, the highest number of English learners or the highest percentage of at-risk students? Is that still possible in the same manner?
Megan Peterson, for the record. Yes, this is looking to clean up the language and align it with the way that it's identified in statute, but if they wanted to maintain the terminology because it's colloquially understood, they could do that.
I'm sorry, say that last piece again if they want. I'm sorry.
No, if I can.
No, I just missed it, so I'm sorry.
Colloquial?
Okay, let me say what I think you're saying. How about that? Those designations, the titles changed in statute because of the new funding program, but the identification of those students remains intact.
Megan Peterson, yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Any other questions? Okay. Vice Chair?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So I'm looking at the amendment, and I would just like to ask, it says that you shall develop and carry into effect block grants to approved colleges, universities, and other providers, knowing full well that some of those grants have been stopped at the federal level, knowing full well that we have some of our teach programs that may not be funded. Can you talk a little bit about this part of the amendment and if we're even going to be able to do this moving forward?
Sure. Jeff Brisky, ND, for the record. Thank you for the question, Senator Dondero-Loop. The idea behind this amendment was to cut down on the number of, what are those called? Subgrants. Thank you. To cut down on the number of subgrants. Every time we have a subgrant that's entered into our tracking system e-page, the subgrantees have to go in and make budgets for each one of the subgrants, so on and so forth. And anytime they want to change how much they're spending in each category, they have to do budget amendments. And the department on the back side, on both the program and the fiscal side, has to approve all of those and move those forward. So the idea behind the block grant would be to have one grant for all the different purposes rather than 3 separate subgrants. Just an efficiency is what it's for.
And I understand that, and this may not touch this bill. I don't know. I feel like it does. So what if a grant has been what if it gets totally wiped out? Does that affect any of this? Or you just, instead of having 5 grants, you'll have 4?
Sorry, we were conferring amongst the table here. Jeff Brisky, ND, for the record. All of the educator grants, from my understanding, are state funded right now. But if any of them are not state funded, then they wouldn't be part of that block grant.
Okay, and the reason I ask is because these teacher development grants, the teacher advancement, NITEP, Teach Nevada, whatever it is, are very, very important to producing our teachers, encouraging our teachers, and getting teachers into our schools. And so I worry a lot about, at the federal level, at the governor budget level, wherever it is that these are being cut, I worry because these programs, these qualifying programs, are very, very important to putting teachers in the classrooms. We don't have teachers in the classrooms, then we don't have a coordinator, a principal, the next thing that happens in a school setting. So our teachers are our heart, if you will. So that's why I was asking that. Madam Chair, if you don't mind, I have one other question, if I can find it in here. I usually have a colored copy and don't. Under just a little more information on section 20, section 21, I'm sorry. Again, where it says, on my copy, it's the top page 29, but is a resident of state before 20 years successfully completed high school equivalency assessment selected by the state board if the assessment was administered outside of the state. Are there any qualifying things there? In other words, if it was administered in Utah, Arizona, New Jersey, it doesn't matter. Is there anything there that's different, or is it just a blanket statement?
Jeff Brisky, ND, for the record. My understanding of this amendment, of this change, is to allow Nevada residents, regardless of where they earned their high school or equivalent diploma, that they can apply for these grants.
Thank you. That helps. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Senator Buck?
Thank you, Chair Taylor. Spending about 18 years in the Clark County School District, 11 of which were in administration. I know that I spent the majority of my time as a building leader kind of protecting my people at the school level, or protecting my community from different things that came down the pike that didn't necessarily increase school climate. So I was just wondering, does the survey does it provide an opportunity for site-based administration to be able to express concerns about different district initiatives that tend to focus or tend to come down from like principal supervisors or from district micromanagement a lot of times that kind of seep into. I'll give an example. So writing 20 objectives on the board, or different things that say a superintendent may be forcing, and then it impacts your culture at your school building. So is there an opportunity for principals or to be able to have their say?
Jeff Brisky, ND, for the record. If I'm understanding your question correctly, the administrators would like some input on the survey results for their school. I don't have every question memorized, but I can go back with staff and with our third-party vendor and determine exactly what all those questions are, and we can give a printout to you for that.
Because I know I've received different concerns just sitting in this seat from different principals, but also from teachers in regard to things that are coming down that impact the school culture. So if it's coming from a district, it should be separate than actually how the school culture is with that principal.
You good, Senator Buck? Okay, thank you, Senator Buck. There's one question I forgot to ask, and I'm glad my colleague, Senator Buck, brought up the survey. So I want to make sure I heard you correctly. So obviously this bill is about being able to do a survey as described, but you also mentioned, Mr. Frisky, you also mentioned that in 2024, you started doing some surveys. Is this the same survey or?
Yeah, Jeff Brisky, NDE for the record. The working conditions and exit surveys were piloted in the summer, and then they were implemented this fall. Mm-hmm. So the data is already being collected at this point, and as more districts adopt this and allow their employers to use it, then we'll have more data. So this bill would require employers to do that, so we would have that retention information. And, because we all hear anecdotal information, but we don't actually have data, and this would help us with that. This
would thank you, Mr. Frisky. This would require the districts to do this on the whatever the annual basis or what have you that you have.
Yeah, Jeff Brisky, ND for the record, not only require them to give it, but also use the information to inform their retention and school improvement.
Thank you, Mr. Brisky. Any other questions? If I may, is there a way the committee can get a copy of the survey? Okay, thank you so much. If you wouldn't mind getting that to staff, they'll make sure we have it. Any other questions from the committee? Okay, seeing none, then the two of you, Mr. Brisky and Ms. Peterson, you can step back if you would, and we will open up this. We're in the hearing for Senate Bill 81. We will now open it up for any testimony in support. Would anyone like to testify in support here in Carson City? Please come forward at this time. If there's anyone in Las Vegas who would like to testify in support, also please come forward at this time. And then we'll go to the phone lines. Go right ahead, Ms. Kima.
Chair Taylor, members of the committee, my name is Susan Kima, and I am the Executive Director for the Nevada Association of School Superintendents. We're testifying in support of SB 81. The bill creates efficiencies between school districts and the Nevada Department of Education while still holding each other accountable. SB 81 also supports a goal that we all share, and that is to support that in the teacher pipeline. Thank you for your time on this bill.
Thank you, Ms. Kima. If there's anyone else here in Carson City, please come forward at this time. Thank you, Mr. Shaver. Go ahead.
Thank you, Senator, members of the committee. For the record, Dylan Shaver with Pinion Public Affairs. Just to on behalf of the Washoe County School District in support of the measure. We looked long and hard to find a way to oppose something NDE was doing here, and they told us, hey, you're already doing this. And we said, oh, okay, well, then we're fine. But I did want to thank Mr. Brisky and the team over there for bringing legislation like this and for being so willing to work with districts when they can. Thank you for the time.
I appreciate that, Mr. Dillon. I see why you didn't come forward first. You were wrestling in your mind. Seeing no one else here in Carson City and seeing no one come forward in Las Vegas, we'll go to the phone lines. AVH, is there testimony in support?
Thank you, Chair. To testify in support of Senate Bill 81, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, we have no callers in support at the moment.
Thank you so much. And now we'll open up the hearing for Senate Bill 81. For anyone in opposition here in Carson City, if you're in opposition, please come forward. Or if there's anyone in Las Vegas in opposition, seeing no one come forward, we'll go to the phone lines, AVH.
To testify in opposition to Senate Bill 81, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, we have no callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you so much, AVH. And finally, neutral testimony during this hearing for Senate Bill 81. Neutral testimony, please come forward here in Carson City or in Las Vegas. Neutral testimony, please come forward. Go ahead, begin when you're ready.
John Ippolito. I'm pretty sure I'm neutral. I know in the other committee they moved it one time. Brief history of AIR. That's who's administering this. In 1946, John Flanagan founded AIR. Prior to that, he was the chief psychologist involved in the eugenic experiments via the Pioneer Fund in the late 30s and early 40s. The stated purpose of the Pioneer Fund was to, quote, increase the birth rate among superior groups, end quote. Per AIR's website today, or a year or two ago when I did this, they claim to be, quote, one of the world's largest behavioral and social science research and evaluation organizations, end quote. AIR also administers the SBAC, and this is why none of my 4 kids ever took the SBAC. It's very problematic. They get way more data than the State Department gets and than the school districts get. They can tell if a kid pauses, and there's a lot of problems, in my opinion, with AIR. So it's just teachers and administrators that are doing this, but if kids were involved, I would definitely oppose this because AIR is involved. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ippolito. Seeing no one else here in Carson City and no one coming forward in Las Vegas, AVH will go to the phone lines.
Thank you, Chair. To testify in neutral to Senate Bill 81, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Yeah, hello, this is Al Rojas. I'd like to change my testimony to in support because there is a delay when you watch the video and then you call in. So I support this bill. And I don't know how you add this, like an amendment or how you would change this, or if you could add that I would like some input there to see if the teachers support different legislation that may help their situation. That's all that I wanted to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Rojas. Is there another caller?
I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
There are no additional callers at this time.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry. Thank you, AVH. Okay, seeing no other testimony, would this bill sponsor like to come up for closing comments? It's okay, Ms. Pearson. Thank you so much. We will close the hearing now on Senate Bill 81, and thank all of you who called in and gave testimony. And now we will open the hearing for Senate Bill 396. Senate Bill 396 makes various changes relating to education. Senator Rogich, please begin when you are ready, you and Mr. Norman.
Good morning, Chair, or good afternoon, Chair Taylor, and members of the committee. My name is Lori Rogish, and I represent Nevada State District 11, which is in the southwest portion of Las Vegas. On a personal note, thank you, Chair Taylor, and thank you, Vice Chairwoman of
the committee, Vice Chair Dondera Loop, Senator Buck, Senator Cruz Crawford, Senator Titus, and Senator Donate. Your hard work and dedication has not gone unnoticed. And on behalf of the thousands of children we each have met and worked with over the years, thank you. We appreciate all that you do. This bill represents a strong commitment to the children in our community who have special needs, as well as their families, educators, and advocates. It reflects the voices of parents advocating for their children, teachers striving to make a difference, and children who inspire us. It is a testament to the shared belief that every child deserves the opportunity to thrive in an educational environment tailored to their unique needs. The journey to this legislation has been inspired by the remarkable children, including my daughter, Olivia, who face challenges with courage and determination every day. Their stories of resilience and potential have driven us to act. This bill is not just a policy, it is a promise to provide evidence-based literacy instruction, structured interventions, and individualized support to ensure that every child, regardless of their challenges, can achieve their fullest potential. It is a promise to create classrooms that are inclusive, safe, and equipped with the tools necessary to meet the diverse needs of students. With me today is Jonathan Norman, who is the statewide Advocacy Outreach Policy Director at the Legal Aid Center of Southern Nevada. Joining us in Las Vegas is Marina Delia Hunt, who is the Team Chief of the Education Advocacy Project at Legal Aid. Joining us by Zoom is Hillary Freeman. Many of you may recall that Ms. Freeman was our guest on the Senate floor a few weeks ago. She is not only a friend to Nevada, but a passionate advocate and civil rights lawyer to children who learn differently. There are 2 amendments on Nellis, and I thank the many families, tireless advocates, and lawyers throughout our great state and beyond, the Clark County Education Association, its special ed teachers, the Clark County School District, Washoe County School District, and other Nevada school districts, the Nevada Department of Education, and the State Public Charter School Authority. And we are in discussions with the charter school as to their fiscal note. With that being said, I now pass on to John for further discussion of the bill.
Chair, members of the committee, Jonathan Norman, NORMAN, Nevada Coalition of Legal Service Providers. We do direct representation for over 3,000 kids in foster care at any given time, both in northern Nevada and in southern Nevada. Within that program, we developed at Legal Aid Center a children's a program for special education. So primarily it was to meet the needs of our foster youth who had huge deficits and had special education needs. Since that time, we've expanded to take community referrals as we've realized the need is way outside of just the scope of our foster kids, and there's a lot of families that need that support and need that somebody in their corner. And one thing that I think about is, you know, for our families that we serve, they're within a certain percentage of the poverty line, and their ability to advocate outside of our office is extremely limited. And so I think what this bill does overall is codifies best practices for these families, with the hope that we put all attorneys practicing in this area out of business because our laws are doing the right thing. I want to share a couple of stories for some of the key elements of this bill. One is the expedited due process and emergent relief process in the bill. Aaron is a student with significant special needs. He is deaf and also has intellectual disabilities and autism. In the summer, his team filed a due process complaint because the school district had declined to place him in a deaf and hard of hearing class, claiming instead that he would be better suited for a life skills program that was currently being staffed by a long-term substitute who was not fluent in ASL. As a result of this and many other issues, Aaron's mom decided to file a due process complaint, but was not eligible for a stay put, which means staying in their current educational placement, for issues that predated the complaint. That meant that Aaron then had to wait months before he could be placed in an appropriate classroom, staffed by someone with ASL fluency, Having the ability for emergent relief would have prevented Aaron from months of sitting in a classroom with a teacher who had no means of communicating with him. Similarly, Greg is a student with autism. Near the end of last school year, he had a major mental health crisis that required hospitalization. The mental health crisis was caused both by issues at school and by the IEP's team's decision to move him from his school to a different, more restrictive campus. Though his parents were able to file for a due process and invoke stay put, the school was unwilling to convene an IEP meeting during the due process or have any kind of safety planning meeting to ensure that Greg could return to school safely. Because the school refused the safety plan for Greg's return, he sat out of school for almost a year, waiting for his due process to resolve. If there was the ability to file for emergent relief, we would have had him back in school and not missing an entire year. Another example turns to the provisions in this bill that address dyslexia. Anna is a student in foster care in the 8th grade. For years, no one noticed that Anna could not read. When she entered foster care, a teacher suspected that Anna seemed to have issues with reading and writing that could not be explained by interruptions to her education due to her being in foster care. She was finally evaluated for a specific learning disability, revealing that at the age of 14, she could not spell basic consonant-vowel consonant words like cat or dog. Because the school team was not familiar with working with students with specific learning disabilities in reading or dyslexia, the team did not know how to develop appropriate goals or curriculum for Anna. Writing in her IEP instead that by the end of the year she would be able to identify words in context and that she would be able to identify 15 capital letters. When asked at the IEP meeting if the school could provide her with supports unique to children with dyslexia, the school replied they did not have such programming and no one at the school would have sufficient expertise. Through SB 396, children struggling with literacy, including students with disabilities in both elementary and middle school, would have had access to teachers with training necessary to learn phonics and ultimately to read. Another thing that I think is really important when we talk about having the appropriate identification and special ed services for kids, it is at its core is a school safety issue. When kids do not have the appropriate supports, whether that's ABA therapy for autism or whether that's the appropriate services for dyslexia, it leads to behavior issues. We had a kid who was almost every other week the police were called and he was handcuffed for his behaviors. He was in 4th grade when he was diagnosed with dyslexia and dysgraphia. The issue was that he never received services. So as he aged, he was not able to, there's a point where learning becomes you need to read to learn. And so he was frustrated and that manifested in behaviors. Once we were able to get him the appropriate services, which took almost a 3-year battle, his behaviors diminished, and now he's in a comprehensive high school campus with little to no behaviors. So that's the power of appropriate special education, is it when we have kids when they're young who don't receive the appropriate services, which I think are defined and outlined very well in this bill, SB 396, it leads to behavior issues when they hit puberty, when they hit high school, that lead to juvenile justice referrals and ultimately lead to directly to that school to prison pipeline. With that, we have Hillary on Zoom, and then I know my colleague Marina in the South is just going to be here to answer questions because I know we're in deadline week. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Please go right ahead. Thank you for being here, Ms. Freeman.
Good afternoon, Chair Taylor and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Hillary Freeman, Freeman, and I just want to thank everybody for the opportunity to speak today. Senate Bill 396, a transformative education bill that will dramatically improve student outcomes through evidence-based practices and early intervention, such as those students that Jonathan described a few moments ago. At the heart of this bill is a very simple idea. When we know better, we must do better. We have decades of research showing us what works and what doesn't when it comes to teaching children to read and supporting those with learning differences. SB 396 takes that knowledge and turns it into action. Let's start with what's at stake. Right now, far too many Nevada students are struggling with reading by the time they reach 3rd grade. That's not just an academic issue, it's a life-altering one. As many of us are aware, 3rd grade is the tipping point. Before then, kids are learning to read. After 3rd grade, they're expected to read to learn. If they don't make that transition, they fall behind in every subject: math, science, and social studies. It all becomes harder when reading is a barrier. And here's the most troubling part. Many of these students are struggling in the older grades, not because they can't learn, but because they weren't taught in the way their brains actually learn best. That's why structured literacy, explicit, systematic, evidence-based reading instruction is so essential. And it's why early screening and intervention are so powerful. That is why appropriate and proactive instruction in appropriate behaviors is indispensable. That they allow us to catch problems early when they're easiest and candidly least expensive to address. The bill mandates universal literacy screening for students in kindergarten through 6th grade twice per year. These screenings measure critical early reading skills like phonemic awareness, fluency, and decoding, and help identify students at risk of reading failure or learning disabilities, including dyslexia. As many of us know from research and from lived experience, if structured literacy interventions for students with reading disabilities are not in place before 3rd grade, students are far less likely to catch up, and evidence shows that their chances of ever reading to learn independently drop significantly. Instead of reading to learn, they continue to struggle to learn to read, and the consequences are severe. Poor performance in every academic subject, lower graduation rates, and limited post-secondary opportunities. Senate Bill 396 ensures we catch these issues early and we do something about it. Section 2 of the bill also requires at least 20 hours per year of evidence-based literacy training for teachers, paraprofessionals, and administrators. This training includes how to use structured literacy methods, how to interpret screening data, and how to support students for reading disabilities using proven interventions and tools. This bill gives educators what they've been asking for: real training in what works. Section 4 introduces long overdue limits on student-teacher ratios in special education classrooms. Clear classroom ratio limits for special education settings helps ensure students with significant needs are in place in overcrowded classrooms and staff aren't stretched beyond their capacity. Smaller ratios means more individualized attention, better behavioral support, and fewer disruptions to learning. It's long overdue. These caps are disability specific and adjusted based on staffing levels, and the numbers can increase if additional aides are assigned. Why does this matter? Because when special education classrooms are overcrowded and understaffed, no one wins. Students don't receive the individualized instruction they need, teachers burn out, and behaviors escalate. That brings me to a critical addition in this bill: the need for more board-certified behavioral analysts. Section 9 addresses one of the most urgent needs in our schools: the behavioral and emotional support for students with complex needs. Senate Bill 396 requires that every classroom with students who have autism, emotional disturbance, or developmental delays be assigned staff who are trained in behavioral analysis. These professionals are trained and are essential to developing and reviewing behavior intervention plans, supporting staff in crisis intervention and response, and improving outcomes through data-driven, proactive behavioral strategies. The BCBAs and other staff who are trained in applied behavioral analysis will reduce classroom disruptions, increase instructional time, and most importantly, they help students learn and thrive in the least restrictive environments, which is the core tenet of the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. This isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. Without this level of support, schools are left to react instead of respond, and students with behavioral challenges are often disciplined rather than supported. And let's be clear, early and consistent behavioral support doesn't just help students, it also saves money. Fewer suspensions, fewer costly out-of-district placements, fewer staff injuries, fewer lawsuits. It's not just the best practice, they're a fiscal and ethical imperative. Section 3 ensures that we're not just hoping to make that these changes make a difference, we're tracking it. School districts must report what screening tools they use, how many students are identified and served, and the academic growth of the students year after year. This kind of transparency is essential for making data-driven policy. Section 5 also requires IEP teams to consider the impact of frequent placement changes, especially for students with autism who may regress due to inconsistency. Stability is not just a preference, it's a predictor of academic and behavioral success. And then lastly, we're talking with respect to emergent relief. Currently, Nevada lacks critical safeguards that every other Western state has implemented, procedures for immediate relief when a student faces irreparable educational harm. This gap exposes Nevada to significant legal liability. There are procedures for expedited hearings, which SB 396 codifies and clarifies the process. And in some cases, those involve disciplinary removals or placement disputes that presumably will be heard within 25 school days at the high end. But there are circumstances when families might need a decision faster than that. This bill represents a strategic investment that will yield significant returns, both educationally and financially. Studies show that remediation is high in high school can cost up to 4 times as much as early intervention as in first and second grade. Students who can't read proficiently by the end of 3rd or 4th grade are 4 times more likely to drop out. This has real consequences for our economy and workforce in our community. While implementation costs are a valid consideration, this bill focuses not on construction, but on cost-effective early intervention rather than expensive long-term remediation. For example, certifying one teacher in the Orton-Gillingham approach, which is structured literacy, costs only $1,500 to $2,000 and enables the teachers to positively impact 44 students daily, an investment of approximately $45 per student that yields lasting educational benefits. Alternatively, delayed identification leads to more referrals to intensive special education services, increased grade retention, lower graduation rates, and higher long-term costs for public assistance and justice involvement. By investing in the prevention through universal screening, evidence-based training, and stable classroom environments, SB 396 will reduce special education costs by an estimated 30% over 5 years, while dramatically improving student outcomes. This is both smart governance and sound fiscal policy. SB 396 transforms our educational spending from reactive to proactive, maximizing the impact of every dollar by investing in prevention rather than costly remediation. This approach represents fiscal responsibility while ensuring better educational outcomes. Thank you.
Lori Rogish for the record. Thank you, Hillary. We are available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator, and all of the presenters. I'll open it up to the committee, but I'll start a little bit. Will you talk a little bit about the amendment? I know there are 2 of them, but I know there's some changes involved that you'd like to see. Would you mind talking us through that?
Yes, Lori Rogish for the record. I think Hillary covered a lot of the sections that are in the amendment.
I'm sorry, Senator. Let me be more clear. I'm sorry. I don't want to cut you off. I'm sorry. I didn't mean the whole amendment. I guess we talked yesterday about the implementation and delay. That's the piece I'd like for you to share.
Oh.
I'm sorry. It should have been more.
I'm so
okay.
sorry.
No, that
Lori
was my
Rogish
fault.
for the
Thank
record.
you.
Yes, so the second amendment was with regard to discussion among the stakeholders and an agreement to extend certain sections of the bill for a 2-year process. So that would allow the school districts to move into, or I can actually read it. It indicates that certain sections 1 through 14 of this bill, each school district shall report to the interim education committee as requested by the committee all the following. the plans for implementing this act beginning July 1st, 2027, any fiscal, staffing, logistic, or other challenges the school districts reasonably expect to encounter that may impede implementation beginning July 1st, 2027, and any progress that the districts have made towards timely implementation. One particular section that would be with regard to section 13 through 16, that'll become effective on July 1st, 2025, and that would allow the emergent relief section and the emergency access to the due process hearing with regard to a lot of these situations that Jonathan had discussed. These children need immediate response, and waiting another 2 years in order to implement that. We appreciate the discussion around that and the understanding as to putting that in place upon passage if this bill should pass. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Rogich. Committee members, questions? Senator Cruz Crawford?
Thank you, Chair. A few questions. I'm trying to get up to speed because I'm looking at the amendment and the other piece. First of all, have you spoken to the Nevada Department of Education to see what programs they already have in place and how this piece of legislation would fit in the work that they're currently doing?
Thank you, Senator Cruz Crawford. Lori Rogish for the record. We just started having discussions. We were advised that this hearing would occur yesterday, and based on the timeline with regard to working on the amendments, there was a short discussion with the Nevada Department of Education, but not one as thorough as you're referring to.
Okay, and Chair, may I follow up with that? My next thing is, when we do have these programs developed for licensure, this literacy scope and sequence instructional plans, these are all part of that. So it also suggests that you work also with the College of Education, because they do have this in part of their programming. I know that a lot of districts provide this professional development, and Nevada Department of Education does have a training resource that they do have for their teachers. So I would look into to that. Obviously, we all want this. It's great. My concern, and I don't know if it was addressed in the amendment because I'm just getting up to speed with the amendment piece, but for some of those rural communities that have those mixed classrooms, sometimes they don't have enough room to make an autism unit, right? So they might have a diverse classroom, and that teacher might be licensed in one licensing area. So does that address that issue? And that's my last question.
Lori Rogish for the record. Hillary, would you like to respond to that, please?
Sure. So if a teacher, if they don't have room for an autism class, being trained in applied behavioral analysis and or having a board certified behavioral analyst in or around the classroom will really help those teachers provide that extra support that they require when the student is in that environment.
Thank you so much, Hillary, for answering that. And I agree. It's ABA licensed teachers in this state is so low. It's very, very difficult to find. And I just wanted to make you aware that would be difficult, especially for a rural school. It's hard for my inner city urban Title I school to find that. So that does make it a difficult hurdle. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Cruz Crawford. Vice Chair Dondero-Loop?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And I have had some discussions with the senator regarding this bill. I would also encourage you to make sure that you are speaking with the Department of Education. Anytime a department or someone is responsible for something, it's good for them to really understand the bill in full and what your intentions are. I was wondering, when I was reading just section 2, for example, for a person who serves enrolled in preschool, serves pupils enrolled in preschool, kindergarten, or grades 1, 2, and 3 training, and then it lists all these things. I personally have, as you all have heard, I've been a teacher for a lot of years. I've had every one of these classes, and yet I am not necessarily, while I've worked with kids with dyslexia, and I've worked with kids with autism, and I've worked with many, many different groups of our disabled children, I'm just kind of wondering, even though I have all that, I don't know that I'm a expert. I think I do a good job, but I don't know that I'm an expert. So where is our threshold, I guess? How are we going to make, because like I said, I have all these things. I've taken all these over and over and over again, or been in professional development that has done some of this. So what is it that's going to make me different from the person who does this via this bill?
Thank you, Senator. Lori Rogish for the record. So that's part of the professional development program, which is geared toward the universal screening of the children, trying to find these kids that are going unidentified. With regard to children that are dyslexic, what we have learned, and we had wonderful, wonderful teachers assisting us with our daughter who were special ed teachers and had certain endorsements and trained, but yet they were not certified or trained in a specific methodology that has been highly successful throughout the United States, and that is Orton Gillingham. And I can tell you firsthand, our daughter went from a child that hid behind my skirt, failed to make eye contact, just had no ability to really learn on her own independently. Didn't mean she wasn't smart, she just struggled horribly. And we were introduced to, in fact, a dear friend of ours is Jan Jones, her husband, Dana Blackhurst, runs a school in South Carolina, and invited us to the school. And at that point, after 10 years of struggle, we realized, well, we were willing to try anything. And we did. And we went there. And within 3-4 months, it was transformational. And it was this program, this approach that they used, but they were certified and properly trained in understanding how a dyslexic child learns. And it's been no stopping her since then. That I can tell you. But perhaps, Hillary, you can fill in a little bit more as to the training program, please.
Sure. Hillary Freeman for the record. This bill, Section 2 specifically, really allows for training in structured literacy. I think a lot of the teachers are trained, generally speaking. I mean, I can't speak for every individual teacher, but generally they're trained in the different concepts of reading. But what's really vital to the student's success is the implementation and the assurances that the instruction is delivered with fidelity to design, meaning that it's implemented according to the research. And if it's not implemented according to the research, the progress, to the extent that there is any, is probably going to be significantly slower according to what the research says. So that this training ensures more consistency across schools, across classrooms, in the implementation of the instruction.
Thank you very much. And I appreciate that information. Thank you very much, Ms. Freeman. Also, the other question I have is, because this is happening and it's an unfortunate circumstance of any state, not just ours, how will we, in Section 4, it talks about the shall not. It says the Board of Trustees of a school district or governing body of a charter school, as applicable, shall not assign a teacher to a special ed classroom unless the teacher holds a license to teach special ed. And it goes on, of course. and we all know that some of those classrooms end up with substitutes. Are we going to provide some of those people with training? And I'm trying not to get into the finance piece of this because I know that that's a big piece of this, but I was just curious how we might be able to assist, frankly, a substitute who might be in a situation. I mean, I could be a substitute, right, in that classroom, but so could anybody that doesn't, who has a substitute license. So I was just curious if there was ways to work around that.
Thank you, Senator. Lori Rogish for the record. So I go back to Hillary's testimony with regard to having a certain amount of the teachers trained with regard to being certified in this structured literacy and using train the trainer sessions. And so the substitutes would be included in that if they're in that classroom and they're dealing with these children. I mean, otherwise, these children are not learning. You have a substitute, and they may have good intentions and want to help, but they're not understanding how the child actually learns. And so the child is not learning.
Well, and I would follow up by saying, stability in any situation is best. I don't care if you're going to court and you have the same lawyer over and over again, or you go to a school and you have the same teacher over and over again, right? Stability is absolutely always the best. And so those special ed classrooms need that. But I was just curious how we might get around that. And I don't mean getting around the law. I mean working with those substitutes so that they might have that same support system that a regular teacher may have.
Lori Rogish for the record. Go ahead, Hillary. That's fine.
I'm sorry. Hillary Freeman for the record. There are various ways of providing that additional support. I think it would depend on the classroom in terms of what kinds of support would be provided. If it's more of a behavioral class or there are students with more severe behaviors, perhaps behavioral analysts could be in that class more with the substitute when the substitute is present. Our hope, of course, is that the substitute isn't in class for an extended period of time. And I think if they are, then we'd have to talk about the different support and the instruction that teacher needs to catch up and make sure that the instruction is provided appropriately.
One more question, please, Madam Chair. And you mentioned Orton Gillingham, which I'm familiar with and know about. Is there other programs that you mentioned that, and I didn't know if that was where we were going and sort of isolating into this because I don't know, I may be in a school district that doesn't have that. So are there other programs or how is that going to work?
Thank you, Senator. Lori Rogish for the record. Yes, there are other language-based programs that the children can respond to. Orton Gillingham is approximately 100 years old and has been used with great success in school districts comparable to the size of the Clark County School District. And so that is one program of a few. And Hillary, I believe Wilson is another, correct? And there's a couple more out there.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm not 100 years old, but I do know that program and have been in several professional developments with it, but I still don't feel like I'm an expert. So thank you very much, and thank you for the bill.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Any other questions from the committee? Okay, seeing none. Senator and Ms. Freeman and Mr. Norman, please step back if you will. And then we will open it up for testimony in support. If you're here in Carson City or in Las Vegas and would like to testify in support of Senate Bill 396, please come forward at this time. And you will have 2 minutes on their comments. So we'll go ahead and let you get started when you are ready.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Sarah Adler, A-D-L-E-R. And today I am before you as Sarah Adler, as myself as a former high school English teacher. So I really am thrilled to see this bill come forward. Sections 2 and 3, the emphasis that the spotlight that they cast upon dyslexia will be of great benefit to the children of Nevada and to employers of Nevada who need a literate workforce. And I'll jump to the employer example right now. At one point in my life, I ran a piece of USDA. We had made a grant to a tribe in Nevada for a micro solar installation, and I was brought in to help negotiate between the tribe and the contractor, and all of a sudden I realized that the tribe's lead could not read the contract. And when I realized that, we could create a workaround, and we have a solar complex outside Mesquite now. So that's the workforce piece of it. But in 1999, I entered teacher licensure, and for my SPED class, I chose dyslexia. And when I needed a 7-page paper, I delivered a 33-page paper on the impacts and the solutions associated with dyslexia. In Britain, they screen kindergarten kids. They find the 1 in 4 kids who needs multisensory through Orton Gillingham or Slingerland. And then they send those, that 25% of the kids to Ms. Taylor's class because she's had the specialized instruction. If we were able to do this in a more widespread way in Nevada, the great benefit would be many kids who later become identified for an IEP or 504 would not need that identification. We would solve the problem at the beginning of their student career, and we wouldn't disempower kids who start out thinking, I'm going to be a veterinarian.
Ms. Adler?
And
Your
in
time
5th
is
grade,
up.
they decide they have to be a canine cop because they're not smart
Okay,
enough to be a veterinarian.
your time is up. That doesn't mean
Thank you.
keep talking.
You get my point. Appreciate
Thank
so
you.
much your time
Thank
and the
you.
sponsor.
Thank you. I just need to be fair to everyone, so. Okay, anyone else here in Carson City to testify in support of Senate Bill 396? Seeing none, we will go to Las Vegas. We can go ahead and start in Las Vegas. Each of you will have 2 minutes, and please begin when you are ready.
Good afternoon, Chair Taylor and committee members. My name is Marie Nices, Marieneiss. I'm the president of the Clark County Education Association. I'm here today to speak in support of SB 396. We would like to express our sincere gratitude to Senator Rogich for her dedication and hard work on this critical bill. SB 396 is essential in ensuring that students with special needs receive the necessary supports to meet them where they are. Every special needs student deserves access to a quality education just like their typical peers. CCEA fully supports a 2-year delay in implementation, but believes the expedited hearing process should be effective immediately upon passage. This approach will allow for a smooth transition while ensuring timely action where necessary. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Nices. Let's go. Whoever is next in Las Vegas, please state your name.
Good afternoon, Chair Taylor and members of this committee. For the record, my name is Dr. Brenda Pearson, representing the Clark County Education Association and testifying in support of Senate Bill 396. First, this bill ensures educators are knowledgeable and have the resources to identify potential early literacy difficulties. The identification and support of students with learning challenges needs to be proactive, not reactive. As a 3rd grade teacher, I was told to let students academically fall behind their peers in order to demonstrate a need for special education services. No teacher wants a child to fall behind academically just to receive the support they need. Through SB 396, educators will have the training and resources needed to identify early literacy challenges. Second, this bill addresses student behavior through proactive and long-term strategies. A recent NIH study shows that 2/3 of special education students were reported to have displayed behavioral concerns, and this data rings true in CCSD also. Last school year, special education students were involved in 31% of violent instances on CCSD campuses, although they only represent 14% of the student population. Through SB 396, students with problematic behaviors will receive structured and individualized support. Last, this bill ensures that special education classrooms are fully staffed are staffed with fully licensed teachers. We all know the impact a high-quality teacher has on students, and at the start of the school year, CCSD had 300 special education classrooms that did not have a licensed teacher. Additionally, there are numerous teachers who are licensed to teach special education, but are currently teaching in general education classrooms. SB 396 prohibits school districts from reassigning a special education teacher to a general education classroom. CCEA is in full support of Senate Bill 396. These changes will have a direct and immediate impact on our students, and we urge your support on this bill.
Thank you, Dr. Pearson. Next down in Las Vegas, and if there's anyone else in Las Vegas to testify in support, please come forward at this time. Please, sir, go right ahead.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Frank Slaughter, Slaughter. I have come in support of Senator Rogich's Senate Bill 396. This bill will ensure that kids with disabilities will have equal opportunities to learn and prosper according to their abilities, and hopefully one day integrate as much as possible into the fabric of our society. This bill is as much about empathy as it is about the policy for children and their families. I have personally witnessed those families struggle to provide the best for their kids. In fact, I have recommended a few families to meet with Senator Rogich on this issue. The toll it takes not only on the child but the parent. Imagine having a child you have to raise for life. I can only tell you that parents will never sleep the same again once they have a child with a disability. Working all day and coming home and finding the energy to take care of their child with a disability and lovingly doing so. Please consider this bill, SB 396, for passage. Thank you very much, Frank Slaughter, NSH Legislative Forum, District 11.
Thank you, Mr. Slaughter. Who's next down in Las Vegas?
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Taylor. My name is Trevor Hayes. I'm a 30-year resident of Southern Nevada, and along with my wife, we have two wonderful, healthy children, including our daughter Ellie, who's 12 and seated next to us. Toward the end of Ellie's first grade year, her teacher said, "Ellie's one of the brighter kids in the class, but she can't read. Something's going on." She didn't know what to do about it. We started asking. We didn't know what to do about it. It seemed no one did. Eventually, we found out that she might have dyslexia, and we found out if we went through the school district and their Child Find program, it might take up to 2 years. And as you heard today, getting the reading problem fixed by third grade is imperative. So we went out and spent $3,500 of our own money to get an expert to test her, and it turns out that she has dyslexia. Great, dyslexia. We've heard of that for years. That should be an easy problem to fix. There's no one trained to address dyslexia in Southern Nevada. We looked everywhere for someone. To find someone that is properly trained in structured literacy, such as Orton Gillingham or the other programs, was impossible. So what did we do? We went out and found an expert who was based in Maryland and brought her here and taught 16 teachers and tutors from around the state. They couldn't afford to do it as teachers. We went out and raised the money, $16,000, to pay for them to go to this program and train them. And at the end, the trainer said, "This person right here is the one you need to have your daughter be tutored by." We spent the next 4 years, 3 to 4 hours a week, $800 a month, about $10,000 a year, for Ellie to get tutored and learn to read. And we are so fortunate that today, after 4 years of it and now going on, she can read well and is flourishing and thriving. We talk about in the state how as many as 3 out of 5 kids can't read at grade level. Well, about 20% of people have dyslexia. If we brought the proper reading programs and proper screening into the schools, we could wipe out 1/3 of the kids who can't read right now by teaching them how to read. Dyslexic kids learn to read differently. It's a structured literacy program, but the kids who learn to read easily learn to read that way just as easily as they do another way. We can fix this problem.
Mr. Hayes, I'm sorry, sir, your time is up. But if you have
I just
more,
urge you to pass the bill.
Okay, thank you, sir. If you have more, please, you can send your comments in, and the committee secretary or the committee manager will make sure we get the information. Thank you so much. Who's next down in Las Vegas?
Good afternoon, Chair Taylor and members of the committee. My name is Ellie Hayes. I'm a 7th grader and Las Vegas native who has dyslexia. I don't remember much about my struggles with reading, other than the hours and hours I spent in tutoring after school for 4 years. I hated tutoring when I had to do it, but now I am so grateful that I can read. My favorite after-school activities require a lot of reading. I can't imagine not being able to join the mock trial team or perform in my theater group. And I never would believe, even a couple of years ago, that my favorite class in school would be English. Not every kid has the opportunity for specialized tutoring that I had, but every kid should. I hope you will support Senate Bill 396 so that other kids in Nevada can learn to read and not be denied opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Hayes, and really to be commended on your very hard work. That was excellent reading. Please go right ahead. Who's next in Las Vegas?
Good afternoon, Chair Taylor and members of the committee. Nancy Bruni for the record. First, I want to thank Senator Rogich for her courage in bringing forward SB 396. As an educational researcher and as a favorite Tia of both a niece and nephew who have dyslexia, I have direct knowledge of the lack of resources and training currently in our schools to address dyslexia or additional needs students may have. SB 396 is a welcome solution and I support the bill. Rather than reference the policy reports I authored on existing gaps in our schools addressing students with special needs, I want to share the experiences and words of my sister-in-law, Yvette Bulware. Yvette was a 20-year teacher in Clark and Washoe County school districts. When her own daughter was diagnosed with dyslexia, she became acutely aware of how unprepared she was a 20-year teacher, to support her daughter and how incredibly challenging it was to find adequate resources in our schools. After observing the growing need among our students, she left her own teaching career 2 years ago and started her own company, Dyslexia Specialty Tutoring, which has a growing wait list. When I asked Yvette what she would do, even before she knew about SB 396, she said, require dyslexia specialists and correct misinformation among educators. She went on to say, most general education teachers have not been trained in the science of reading or in the research facts about dyslexia. Many still believe harmful myths that dyslexia means seeing letters backwards, that kids will grow out of it, or worse, that dyslexic students are lazy or not trying hard enough. These misunderstandings do real damage. Yvette also said proposed solutions to be effective should require every school to have access to a certified dyslexia specialist, someone trained specifically in identifying, understanding, and supporting students with dyslexia, not just general reading challenges. Yvette concluded by saying, let's be real, this isn't a teacher problem, it's a training and systems problem, but we can fix it without acknowledging that a specialist on campus could be the difference between a child being supported or being labeled and left behind.
Dr.
Please
Brune,
support 396.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bruni. Who's next in Las Vegas? Seeing no one else come forward in Las Vegas? Oh, there are a few. Please, if there's anyone else in Las Vegas, please come forward at this time. Welcome, ladies. You'll each have 2 minutes. Please state your name for the record.
Good afternoon. My name is Maria Ibarra, Mariaibarra, and I'm the mother and a child with autism, and I'm here to express my strong support for Senate Bill SB 396. I represent a group of 45 families, Hispanic. This bill is important for us because it helps students with disabilities get the support they need to learn and succeed. SB 396 makes sure that teachers are training to help children with reading difficulties, including dyslexia. It also requires schools to report on how the students are doing so we can see what's working and what needs to improvement. My son is 9 years old. He's in 4th grade and he can read and write. He's nonverbal. As a parent, I know how hard it is to find the right help for our kids, especially for children with disabilities. Better training for teachers, early screening for literacy issues, and strong protections for students' rights. They're all the things that can make a real difference. I'm thankful for this bill, and I would represent better education, more support, and a bright future for students with disabilities like my child. Please support and pass SB 396. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Ibarra. Who's next down in Las Vegas?
I am.
Hello, members of the committee. My name is Valeria Gurr, Valeragur, and I'm here to express my support for Senate Bill 396. I believe this is an essential piece of legislation that prioritizes educational success and well-being of students that learn differently in our state. Requiring the Department of Education to establish professional development programs that support our literacy instruction is a crucial step. We cannot expect educators to effectively support students with reading disabilities such as dyslexia without the proper training tools, and by empowering teachers, we're ultimately empowering our students. I work as well with the Hispanic community very closely, and I hear every single day how my community is often abused by the system. I know that this is going to put a stress in the schools and it's going to cost more resources, but we have to acknowledge that we have to bring change for the students that learn differently. The Hispanic community is a community that has, in many different cases in this state, English as a second language. We have to invest in education. I believe in supporting all the system. This bill requires regular reporting on literacy and academic process. This transparency is key to understanding what is working and where support is needed. SB 396 seeks to change all how we're doing things to help a community that really, really need the support. I'm very proud that we're bringing this piece of legislation, and I hope that we can support it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for being here. Is there anyone else down in Las Vegas? Okay, seeing none, we will go to the phone lines. Do we have anyone calling in for support of Senate Bill 396?
Thank you, Chair. To testify in support of Senate Bill 396, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue.
Thank you, Chair Taylor and members of the committee. My name is Wiz Rizard, spelled W-I-Z-R-O-U-Z-A-R-D, and I'm the Deputy State Director of Americans for Prosperity. And I'm also calling as a father of a 10-year-old child in Nevada who have dealt with a lot of struggles in education with his disability. We urge you to strongly support Senate Bill 396, and we appreciate the bill sponsor, Senator Rogich, for being a strong advocate in and out of the chamber for these type of reforms to ensure that every voice, whether they're small or big, are represented in every chamber of our education system. Senate Bill 396 seeks to bring about significant reforms to the Nevada education system, particularly in the areas of literacy, instruction, and support for students with disability. This legislation, let me remind you, each and every one of you as elected officials who represent and hold the vote of those voiceless, ensures that they are able to receive the education that they deserve and need to thrive. We applaud the bill sponsor for spearheading the effort with a focus on enhancing literacy instructions from preschool through 6th grade and requiring for a comprehensive professional development program for educators. I know I heard in the presentation there are some committee members concerned about that. But what I want to say is that in an imperfect world, you are tasked with the opportunity to ensure that the step in the right direction towards perfection is initiated. And there's been no bill that we've seen other than SB 396 that starts that process. As a father who often have dealt with the education system, I applaud the bill sponsor for explicitly in section 8 through 11, ensuring that major necessary reforms such as structural literacy and more important, due process through a hearing is implemented to ensure some of the parents who have dealt with these difficulties are fully represented. As a father as well, I will say,
I'm sorry, Mr. Regard. Mr. Regard, I'm sorry, sir. Your time is up. If you would like to finish your remarks, so please send them in, and the committee staff will make sure that the committee gets them. Thank you so much. We appreciate your call. Who's next, AVH?
Caller, you're unmuted. Please proceed. Please ensure that you are unmuted on your phone.
Hi, this is Peter Guzman, president of the Latin Chamber of Commerce. I want to echo many of the incredible, powerful testimony from colleagues before me. And I want to say to Senator Rogich that I generally just appreciate her hard work. I know this is very personal to her, and she has personal stories that she could tell about this issue. And we must be looking out for our children, and that's exactly what this bill does and exactly what Senator Rogich is doing. So for that reason and many more, the Latin Chamber of Commerce is in full support of this bill, and we thank Senator Rogich for bringing it forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Guzman. Next caller, we have several callers, so we'll encourage you, if your comments have already been stated, a good ditto would be strongly appreciated so we can get to as many callers as we can. Thank you. Go ahead.
Caller with the last three digits, 512, please press *6 to unmute. Once again, caller, please press *6 to unmute. Go ahead, please.
Yes, good afternoon. Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. My name's John Hunt. I'm an attorney, 50-year resident, father of 3, been active politically, former AG candidate. But I think that I want to say simply, Nevada's #1 treasure is our children, and that is vested in our future. Protecting, nurturing, and promoting the best interests of our children in Nevada should have no limits. I want to say this bill would improve the quality of life. Supporting this bill means advocating for better resources that can significantly enhance the quality of life of our children and help them reach their full potential. The economic benefit, investing in these services can lead to long-term economic benefits, which will enable these children to contribute to society and our workforce. Family support. This legislature, and I know this is a bipartisan effort, recognizes the challenges that these families face and will provide them the necessary support and resources to foster a more inclusive community. Educational success. By training educators, it's not rocket science, the professionals, and the bill ensures that individuals, our children with these needs, will receive tailored support that they need to succeed academically as well as socially. Long-term impact, it's evident. Passage of SB 395 can set a precedent for the future legislation, promoting a cultural understanding and support these children for generations to come. I really support this bill. I really want to thank the bipartisan efforts that everybody's making. Senator Rogich, I know it's personal, but sometimes taking up your own personal challenges can benefit all of us, and we have all benefited by her.
Sir, thank you so much. Sir, your time is up. Sir, your time is up. Thank you so much. We appreciate the call. We have several callers left. I will generously give us 10 more minutes, and then we will move on. We usually do 20, 20, 20, but we'll lean towards the inclusion and participation. Who's next, AVH?
Hi, my name is Debbie Juden, and I'm calling in support of SB 396. I'd like to thank Senator Rogich for bringing forth this bill. She's such a tireless advocate for education, and it's wonderful to have her in the Senate. I'm a licensed educator, but more importantly, I'm a mom of 4 school-aged children. This bill seeks to address important challenges in our system, specifically finding children early on with dyslexia and other reading disabilities, and implementing programs to help those children reach their highest potential. I want to thank the committee for your time, and I urge you to support SB 396. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your call. Who's next?
Hello. Good afternoon to the chair and the committee members. My name is Eve Erickson Woodruff. I'm an advocate for the autism community.
I'm sorry. I'm going to stop you. I'm sorry. Would you mind spelling your last name, and then we'll start your time over? Will you spell it for the record, please?
Oh, sorry. It's my name is Eve Erickson Woodruff, ERIKSSON WOODRUFF.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I'm an advocate for the autism community and a parent of a 7-year-old non-speaking autistic child. Like many parents, I want my child to thrive in school, but I've lost faith in Clark County School District's ability to educate her. Large class sizes, inconsistent support, rampant and increasing complaints of abuse and neglect by overwhelmed and undertrained teachers left me no choice but to homeschool. It's a story too many families share. That's why I support SB 396. This bill's focus on better literacy instruction, smaller class sizes for special education, and educational stability directly addresses what my child and so many others with autism desperately need. And I'll ditto the comments before me. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Next caller, please.
Hi. Thank you, Madam Chair Taylor and members of the committee. I'm Michelle Scott Lewing. That's MICHELLE SCOTT-LEWING. I am the president for the Autism Coalition of Nevada. I'd like to thank you, Senator Rogich, for this incredible bill, and I want to thank you for your passion and perseverance in this area and in representing all of our people in the state of Nevada who have disabilities and our children. I just want to keep it very short and say you can count on our support. We 100% support this bill. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Scott Lewing. Next.
Hi, this is Pamela Kendall, Kendall. I'm calling from Las Vegas. I am a court-appointed special advocate. I've worked with foster children and aged-out foster kids for nearly 20 years. I'm in support of this bill 100%. I ditto everything that has already been said, and I also want to remind everybody that if we can't address these issues when these kids are in school, we're going to have to address them when they grow up and become members of our community. For that, I'm in support of this bill. I'd like to thank Senator Rogich and everybody that supports this bill as well. Remember, these kids do grow up and become members of our community. They become our employees. They become our neighbors. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Kendall. We'll take our next caller. We have 7 minutes left. Next caller.
Hi, Madam Chair. This is Maurice Washington, legislative liaison for AFP. I just want to say kudos to those that have already testified in support. Great courage to Senator Rogich.
Thank you so much. I know that was Senator Washington. Next caller, please.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Stephen Cohen for the record. Ditto, testifying individually. I'll submit the rest in writing. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the call. Next caller.
Good afternoon, Chair Taylor and members of this committee. My name is Galdino Griego, Galdino Griego. I'm a special education teacher in a Title I, as well as a proud CCA member. I am writing to support, SB 396. I'll keep it short. In my 8 years as a special education teacher, I've seen firsthand how important it is to have consistent, qualified staffing and ensuring student success. I am excited for Lori Rogich's bill because I think it will address areas where we see high vacancy affecting our high schools, and oftentimes we're just a scramble to get teachers to fill rooms for substitutes, and making sure that special education teachers are prioritized for special education classrooms is just best all around for the schools. And so with that said, I also ditto everything that was said before me. Appreciate it, and thank y'all.
Thank you so much. Next caller, we have 5 minutes left.
Caller, please press *6 to unmute.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and also I would like to thank Senator Rogich for bringing this bill forward. As a author of the call for
I'm sorry, I'm going to stop you because we want to get your name. Will you please state your name and spell your last name for the record, please?
Forgive me, Lamiqua McLeod. That's L-A, lowercase I-Q-U-A, M-C-C-L-O-U-D.
Please go ahead.
Thank you. And as I stated before, as an author of a book called Birth of an Advocate, I also am a mother of a gifted child who got diagnosed back in 2017. And I just want to touch on a couple of things briefly here as the one who has put on the utmost effort to be an advocate for my child, going through the process of becoming ABA certified, going to school, becoming a special education teacher and a regular general education teacher, as well as receiving a master's in psychology and the basics of science. I can tell you that we have not seen since 2017 any effort, from my opinion, with the UNLV process of having teachers be licensed and be able to have these secluded classrooms that most of these children are put in. My son was also put in a secluded classroom and experienced digressive behavior. And when I asked the IEP educational support team to have him move, they told me that that was not possible and that I would have to wait to the following year. So as you can imagine, I end up having to pull my son out and pay for his services on my own. And much like other parents that I have seen and worked with over many years, it is definitely a sorrowful situation. And I want to ditto all the comments that have been stated before. Again, also as an African-American mother to African-American children of 4, I would like to see you all support this and show pretty much everyone that you are willing to put children forward and encourage and empower parents to be those advocates that they need to be. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next caller, please.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. This is Anna Marie Binder, ANNAMARIE-BINDER. I am here as the Vice Chair of the Nevada Governor's Council on Developmental Disabilities, and we want to also extend our willingness to help in any way that we can with getting this bill passed, and ditto everything else before me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Binder. Okay, now we will move to, I believe that's our last call. Well, we're out of time. So now we will move to opposition. Is there anyone here in Carson City who would like to speak in opposition to Senate Bill 396? And if there's anyone in Las Vegas, please come forward at this time as well. We'll do 20 minutes for opposition as well.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Dylan Shaver with Pinion Public Affairs here today on behalf of the Washoe County School District. Before I say anything else, I want to make sure that Senator Rogich understands our heartfelt gratitude for her commitment on this issue, not just as a senator, but for her entire career. And she's been a leader in this space. Frankly, education in this state is better because of that leadership. Second, I want to make very clear the Washoe County School District supports the ends of this piece of legislation. The promise of the Washoe County School District, which may be familiar to some of you, is that we will know every student by name, strength, and need so that they can graduate prepared for the future they choose. And one of the toughest parts of that is aligning those students with their specific needs and with teachers who are competent to address them, frankly. We have a great workforce at WCSD that wakes up, I think, every morning wanting to solve this exact problem. All of that said, as it relates to this bill in front of us today, unfortunately, the Washoe County School District is opposed. When the rubber hits the road for some of the aspirations contained in this bill, there are unfortunately too many unanswered questions that, given the timing of the hearing and when we receive the amendment, just remain unclear. For example, in a state where we have a tremendous shortage of teachers as it is right now, we heard the president, I think, of the CCEA there say that they have 300 special ed classes without special ed teachers in them in Clark County right now, and then 300 special ed teachers who are not in special ed classes. That type of resource misalignment is not the capricious decision of an administrator, but because the resources simply don't exist to do both of those things. We look forward to working with you and the members of your committee, as well as Senator Rogich, to get these things right, and appreciate the opportunity to be here to express our concerns today.
Thank you, Mr. Shaver. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Tom Clark. I'm here on behalf of the Nevada Association of School Boards. And much like my colleague from Washoe County, these are the hardest bills to oppose because they shine light. They have They force us to have conversations that are sometimes very difficult to have. This is a population of students that deserve and need direct attention. The unfortunate thing is that across the state, we simply do not have the space, the teachers, the licensed instructors, and the resources to make this comprehensive piece of legislation to support this comprehensive of an idea. I think that we would love to be here in support of these programs because they are necessary, and it's tear-jerking at times to hear the stories of the students that have to suffer with these types of issues. I wish we could do more. Unfortunately, the Nevada Association of School Boards is opposed to this particular piece of legislation. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Is there anyone else here in Carson City in opposition? Seeing none and seeing no one come forward in Las Vegas in opposition, we will go to the phone lines. AVH, is there a caller in opposition?
To testify in opposition to Senate Bill 396, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue.
Hello, this is Al Rojas. I'd like to have my testimony in support. It's just hard to watch the video and get on here. There's too much of a time delay. Very briefly, I'm minority. I grew up in the inner city, and education worked for me. You guys know my testimony. I've made it before. However, there are 15% of I'm aware that there's 15% of the kids who have special needs. I was a strong advocate for just phonics, and my God, if I could learn how to read and write, and English was my second language as a kid, anybody could, and that's not the case. 15% of the kids do have special needs. Special needs does not discriminate, and I am in total support of this bill, and I thank our senator for bringing this to our attention. Please support this bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for the call. Do we have another caller, AVH?
There are no callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you so much. And now we'll open it up for neutral testimony. Anyone neutral on Senate Bill 396 here in Carson City, or if there's anyone in Las Vegas who's neutral, please come forward at this time. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Senator Rogish, for bringing forward Senate Bill 396. My name is Brian Wallace, WALLACE, a teacher in Carson City and Vice President of the Nevada State Education Association. We have represented teachers for 125 years in our support staff in all 17 counties. 6 days ago, the IDEA Full Funding Act was reintroduced to fully fund IDEA. Congress has continually failed to fully fund IDEA and fully support the most vulnerable students within the United States. Congress pledged to pay 40% of the average per pupil expenditure for special education. Unfortunately, this pledge of 40% has never been met. This has also been an NEA priority bill year after year after year to work to support our students. The fiscal notes and the delayed implementation of sections 1 through 14 of SB 396 clearly demonstrates the need to optimally fund education in Nevada. Optimal funding will provide our educators and our educational support staff the necessary tools to ensure the success of some of our most vulnerable students. Nevada must do better than the $2 per pupil that is currently proposed. The future of our students are depending on all of us to make a strategic investment. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Please go ahead.
Susan Kima, Executive Director for the Nevada Association of School Superintendents, KEEMA. We are testifying in neutral on AB 396. The presentation was informative, and we'll solicit feedback from our district superintendents during the bill and its amendments tomorrow during their business meeting. We also support NSCA's statements that they made about funding special education. We, too, have been advocating for that year after year, especially in Washington, D.C. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Kima. Please go ahead.
Hello, my name is Justin Gervinis, Jervinis. I'm a special education teacher in the Washoe County School District. I wanted to thank Senator Rogish for bringing this bill. I currently work with kids in a self-contained program for students in the autism spectrum, kids with intellectual disabilities, and kids who are also specific learning disabilities. I'm here on behalf of the Washoe Education Association to testify in neutral of this bill, not because we question the content, but because we know it would take real funding to make it work. This bill reflects what educators have been asking for in the structured literacy training, statewide MTSS framework, and protections to keep special education staff in the classrooms where needed the most. These policies can make a real difference for students like mine, some of the most vulnerable learners in the system. Students with autism in particular have often unique communication needs, sensory input needs, and adaptive behavior that require intensive individualized instruction. When their environment is stable and their team's in place, the growth they can make is truly extraordinary. I see it every day. Students that actually make eye contact more than once in a day, students that actually follow multiple directions, and even students that are actually initiating conversations with others when they previously couldn't. That's why I do this work. But this progress depends on having the right people in the room consistently. When we're understaffed or aides are pulled to cover out the classes, that doesn't just slow growth of the students. It causes emotional and academic regression. A 3-to-1 staff ratio in autism programs isn't a luxury, it's a necessity for success for not just the students, but for the staff. More than 90% of students with disabilities in Nevada are served in traditional neighborhood public schools. That means the burden of implementation and underfunding falls directly in local classrooms. While the IDEA outlines strong requirements, the federal government has never fully funded it, only covering about 45%. This shortfall lands on states and local systems that are already stretched too thin. This bill shows what's possible. We support its goals, but not without meaningful funding. It risks becoming another well-intentioned mandate without the tools to deliver. We urge you to...
Mr. Jarinas, I'm sorry, sir, your time is up. But if you have other comments, please give them to the staff, and I'll make sure we have them.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Anyone else neutral here? Neutral to Senate Bill 396? If you're neutral, come on up, sir. Come on up. Absolutely. Make sure you state your name and then spell your last name for the record. Okay, you'll have 2 minutes, sir. Sorry, will you push the button? Push the... Mr. Norman, will you help him to make sure we... Thank you, sir. I just volunteered.
Lance.
There we are.
Gotchi.
Will you spell your last name for us, please, sir?
Gotchy.
Okay, thank you, sir. Go ahead. You'll have 2 minutes.
Well, I followed you for 8 years and admire you in Reno.
Thank you, sir. But Senate Bill 396, though?
Okay, here's a blockbuster. It won't work, but so ask, maybe 5 states to form a group and write polite letters to about 8 billionaires that would they consider setting up a department in all the towns to set up a separate department to help these autistic students. It won't happen, but it's where the money is. Follow the money. And so they would get, the autistic students would receive special help in that separate department, separate building, maybe once a week. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gotchi. We appreciate you being here. Anyone else neutral here in Carson City? Seeing none and seeing no one come forward in Las Vegas. AVH, do we have a neutral caller on the line?
To testify in neutral to Senate Bill 396, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in neutral at this time.
Thank you so much, AVH. Senator Rogich, Mr. Norman, you have closing comments?
Thank you, Chair Taylor. My name is Lori Rogish. I am humbled by the many families that have come out and testified today in support of the bill. They have worked tirelessly in support of their children, and also thanking the organizations and the advocates who have also come out in support. I do want to say that this committee has worked so hard over the past couple months and hearing so many bills to expand the opportunities and to fill that workforce shortage. And so thank you, and I hope that we can continue to see those bills go forward so that we can start filling the classrooms and providing these kids with the support and the services that they need. Thank you.
Chair Taylor and members of the committee, I only need like 50 seconds to close. What struck me in all the testimony...
Let's start with your name.
Jonathan Norman, for the record. What struck me in the testimony was Ellie. She was a 7th grader who can read now because her family could make a tremendous investment in that. And that's the outcome I want for the foster kids and all the families that come into legal services around the state, is the opportunity to be sitting where that kiddo was sitting. And it doesn't happen without bills like this. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Norman, for your advocacy. And Senator Rogich, thank you so much, and thank you for sharing your story. We appreciate it. Okay, we will close the hearing on Senate Bill 396. And that takes us to the last item on the agenda today, which is public comment. If you are here in Carson City, or if there's anyone there in Las Vegas who would like to make public comment, please come forward at this time. Welcome, Mr. Ippolito. You have 2 minutes, sir.
Senator Taylor, John Ippolito. Senator Taylor, thank you for SB 445, student data deletion. It was our understanding that the NDE was okay with the original language. Last week, one of the deputy superintendents of NDE told me, quote, "We wrote the bill," end quote. SB 445 is basically a 3-sentence bill with 1 paragraph of definitions. When the bill was heard, the NDE was present. No one objected to it, and there were no amendments. What happened? Is the NDE incompetent? The way I read the amendment, the NDE will maintain student data until kids are 32 years old. Recall, when we went to view the data the NDE is storing on our 4 kids, we discovered 16 erroneous addresses associated with our older kids and 5 with our younger kids. The NDE said Washoe gave them incorrect data, but they were wrong. Washoe had the correct data. When Joan Ebert was interviewing for the Washoe superintendent position, this question was asked, quote, "When it comes to collecting and storing student personal information, data, and schoolwork, Nevada is one of the worst states in the country. We have 2 massive databases that collect, store, and share student discipline, medical, counseling, and psychiatric data, Infinite Campus and SANE. This data is never deleted in either database. Do you have any concerns with how all this stored data may affect the future of our children?" End quote. The first part of Joan's response was, quote, "All of what the author wrote here is true." Since the NDE is currently present, it would be nice to know what happened over the last 9 days requiring them to bring this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ippolito. Seeing no other public comment here in Carson City and no one in Las Vegas, AVH, is there anyone on the phone line for public comment?
Thank you, Chair. To provide public comment, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no public comment callers at this time.
Thank you so much, AVH, and thank you to the committee for the hard work today. We will meet again on Friday, and it will be at the call of the chair. Thank you so much.